These fragrances are so good that when people smell you, they're gonna have no idea what it is that they just picked up on. Because think about it, typically people are used to smelling the aquatics, the blues, and the bubblegummy sweet fragrances that are being pumped out and being utilized all over the place. So in order to capture people's attention in the best possible way, you'll want something that stands out a little bit, but also isn't to the point where it's completely off-putting and unrecognizable. So it's all about a balance of finding something that's a little bit familiar but a bit unique as well. I think this is a really good selection here. Some things that are easy to wear, easy to pull off, but still have some major head-turning kind of qualities about them. And I'll link all of these down below. You can pick them up. For the most part, we're keeping it pretty affordable, but there are a couple outliers that are a bit more expensive. Actually, really just one that's a little bit more. The rest of these are more designer level. This first one is Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Privé. If you're asking me right now, this is by far the best release within the lineup, hands down, no questions asked. And really, it didn't take me long to come to that conclusion. You know, when I first got this one in and tried it, it was an instant love. The more time I've spent with it, the more times I've smelled it, the more I love it. You know, it's playing on that iris DNA with some whiskey and chestnut additions here to give it a bit of a gourmand feel, and of course, a bit of a booziness as well. This one is perfect for winter, perfect for fall, and still really good as we're wrapping up spring. You know, out of the Gentleman lineup, this one is the most rich, it's the heaviest. So that's what I like so much about it. That's what's so appealing. It just gives you an extra layer to an already existing great DNA. I mean, the Eau de Parfum is fantastic, and there's a lot of other really good scents within the lineup, but this one takes the cake. It is by far the most interesting. It's got great performance, and it separates itself enough from the Eau de Parfum and some other iris scents out there to where it's a big head turner. People love how this smells. Next up, we do have a niche fragrance. However, this isn't even the expensive one that I was talking about, because this in particular goes for right around $100 when it's in stock on discounters. Yes, for niche, that's designer pricing. It's actually cheaper than designer pricing by today's standards. It really is kind of crazy. It is Manera Cosmic Pepper. So this one was released last year, and from what I can remember, this was kind of like a quiet release. You didn't really see any sort of hype building around this one. You know, and to be fair, Manera, they release a lot of fragrances, and sometimes they might do a couple per year or something like that. They'll be spread out, but you know, so they're also a niche brand and they don't have the same type of coverage as designers, and I understand that. But even like with Tonka Cola, Intense Cidrat Boisé, and maybe even a little bit of Intense Red Tobacco, you know, there's some chatter building up to that release. Not the case with this one. This one was just all of a sudden existing. I had no idea this was a thing legitimately until I saw it in stock on discounters and I looked it up, and sure enough, it was something new. One of the best decisions I made was to pick this one up blindly. When it did come into stock on discounters, I ended up paying a really good price for this one. I think it was actually a little bit less than $100, but it's just harder to come by that price these days. So again, going rate typically is $100. Sometimes it might pop up for less. Anytime something good like this or other new releases or rare fragrances pop up, I do send notifications out to my emailing list and texting list. You can jump on that down below. And of course, I utilize it for myself and I get all these great deals too. But this one I love. I really like this a lot. It's right there with Tonka Cola in terms of one of my more favorite recent Manera releases. I would say this, Tonka Cola, and Intense Cidrat Boisé are some premium new Manera offerings, just kind of showing to you that they're keeping this brand live and well. They're not getting off the bandwagon here, and they're not kind of going down a road where it's getting boring. They're keeping things interesting. And the way I describe this one is it almost is like Chanel Allure Homme Sport Extreme and Chanel Allure Homme Sport got together with La Nuit de l'Homme. That's the best way I can describe it, just using other fragrances as leverage to give you an idea. Now, beyond that, there are differences to where if you were to layer those two in real life, you're not going to get this, right? Of course. But that's one way I use to describe this DNA. It's spicy and rich, but it's also creamy and fresh. It's a little bit powdery, has a little bit of a woodiness in the base as well, a little bit of a sweetness. There's a whole lot going on. And of course, it's called cosmic pepper, so that spiciness is doubled down on here, although not as much as you might expect given that it's in the name. It's not a pepper bomb by any standards, which for a lot of people is going to be good because it leans into that versatility aspect. I mean, you could wear this for anything. It's a perfect signature scent, and honestly, I find this to probably be best suited for spring, which is coming up right around the corner. This would be a great spring scent. You've got that freshness and almost this aldehydic nature, but then you have this peppery sweetness to go along with that for the cooler parts of the day. You could also wear this one into summer if you wanted to, and fall and winter. It's a year-rounder that just works really well. And again, for a niche product, it's affordable. Next up, we have Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Extreme. Now, I've talked about this one a ton, so it needs no introduction, and beyond just myself, it's also just been brought up and mentioned a ton of times in the community, and it's well deserving of that talk. It's got plum, tobacco, and of course, almond, which is the signature note within this entire lineup. And that in and of itself makes these all stand out, because typically you're not seeing almond utilized to a heavy extent in men's fragrances, at least. There's few and far between. So it's really just something that catches your attention immediately. And to be fair, they're all really good. I would say, except for the exception of Sport, they're all amazing. And there's nothing inherently wrong with L'Homme Ideal Sport, it's just not as good as the others. And there have been some discontinued ones that are also amazing. L'Homme Ideal Cool, Cologne, and what is now a limited edition, Platine Privé. Those three can all be grouped together into the same pool. They're the fresher versions. This one here is leaning in on the sweeter end of things with that smoky tobacco, that fruity plum off the top, and then the dusty, kind of powdery, chalky almond in here, just to give it something unique, but again, also tying it back into the L'Homme Ideal lineup. Absolute beauty. Love it. It's $100 on discounters. It's stabilized now to where it's in stock pretty much all the time. It's easy to pick up, where that used to not be the case. This is a big time head turner if you want to stand out. Next up, we have Spice Bomb Infrared. This is the Eau de Parfum. I would take this over Infrared Eau de Toilette any day of the week. This being released, to me, makes the Eau de Toilette pointless to seek out now. And of course, when things are being released and we're going in order with the releases, a lot of people ended up with the Eau de Toilette because, of course, they wanted to try it. I wanted to try it. I bought it. But now that this is out, anyone who hasn't purchased the EDT yet, I would advise against it. And honestly, I would say to spend your money on the Eau de Parfum instead, and then you would be good. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't consider picking up Spice Bomb Extreme, because I definitely think you should. But the Eau de Parfum of Infrared is better than you might expect and better than it looks on paper. So this one has a red fruits accord. You're getting some cinnamon and your usual Spice Bomb suspects in terms of the notes. Now, I would like to be able to spray this, but you're going to quickly see I'm just going to shoot the ceiling. I don't know. You probably can't see it. It's so entertaining that I should try to get up close. See that? This is broken. I dropped it a long time ago. It's cracked, and now the atomizer doesn't work very well. So I really can't smell it. I'd had to put it on skin. Yeah, see, look at that. It's just a glob on my skin. I don't know if you could see that, but it's just a glob that it sprayed out. It's running down my hand. It smells great, though. I love it. It's just a fruitier, obviously, take on that DNA. Going back to a more affordable offering here from Mont Blanc, this one is Emblem Absolute. Pretty cool little bottle on this one. Have the gold finish, obviously, that is pretty fragile. It's just a painted on finish that will chip. Something to be aware of if you're rough on your equipment like I am. This will not hold up, but it does look nice, especially when new. And interesting shaped bottle, right? Mont Blanc logo on the top, all that good stuff. Now this one here has pear, fruity notes, and honey in here. So another one that's combining some fruits with some sweetness, with a little bit of a woody, musky, aromatic dry down as you get further on. But just something that you might not necessarily think to purchase. You don't really see the Emblem fragrances talked about all that much in these days. Whenever you hear Mont Blanc, it's usually Explore, which is great in its own regard, but this one is something that is going to offer some variety to your collection at an affordable cost. So this next one here is going to be the more premium, expensive scent that I was referencing earlier, and after this it's going to be back to more affordable. But I wanted to feature it because if you do want to spend some money and treat yourself to just something that's going to be more expensive, this would be a good option. I have been obsessed with this particular line for quite a while, slowly been accumulating them. I don't have them all yet. They are taxing on the wallet, but I'm getting there, and this one is definitely worth a smell. It's Carolina Herrera Platinum Leather. So besides the obvious, you've got some patchouli and musk to go along with it. Great stuff. Does it smell like Tom Ford Tuscan leather? No, it does not. Does it smell like Tom Ford ombre leather, or insert any other popular hyped up leather scent? No, it does not. So this one is kind of doing its own thing, which is great considering the price point that it comes in at. Now, I've made comparisons to a particular fragrance from this brand before that has also popped up in other fragrances from this brand, which is confusing, but I'm going to explain. This has a little bit of the CH Men Privé leather, okay? And so does Carolina Herrera Iris Empire. So it's like they're using that particular leather accord from the discontinued CH Men Privé, and they're reworking it into some of these more premium offerings. Smelling it up in the air, it does remind me a bit of CH Men Privé. Not the exact same, and this one in particular, it's not giving off the same type of whiskey note that Privé had. And, you know, this compared to Iris Empire is drastically different, being that this doesn't have iris and chocolate and things like that. It's leather, patchouli, woods, and musk. But that's kind of where I'm coming from with this. Love the leather accord in here. It smells really good. And the fact that it does resemble a beloved discontinued fragrance, at least a little, is pretty cool to me. A big performer that's going to help you stand out. Next up, we have Calvin Klein Euphoria Intense. So going back to more of a cheapy brand here. This one pops up every now and then on discounters for a price that is reasonable. You got to be in the right place at the right time. It's got amber, oud, and cedarwood. Not often would you equate Calvin Klein to oud. Typically, they're playing it very safe, and this one is also very safe. The oud is very, very minor. It's, of course, a designer-level synthetic oud, which no one would expect otherwise, but this is nothing that's going to be out of the ordinary. They've still managed to make this one very, very pleasing to the general public. But it is different just enough to give it a little bit of an excitement and a little bit of a unique, refreshing overall composition. This next one is Michael Kors Extreme Rush. You don't hear about Michael Kors fragrances all that often. I've talked about Extreme Sky quite a bit, and I've talked about this one here and there as well, although, again, they're kind of easy to forget about. They're just not getting hyped up. This one has blood orange, juniper, and thyme. It's very aromatic. That's basically the focus behind this one. Aromatic with some citrus off the top. Yep, that was a malfunction. There went my atomizer button. I don't know if this is broken, or I don't think it is. It should just pop back on. I wasn't for sure if it got damaged in transit, but yeah, we're good. So a nice one, easy to wear, clean, fresh, a little bit vibrant and uplifting. It does have a nice brightness to it off the top. This is better than you might think. Again, it goes back to what I said before, looking at the note breakdown on paper, right? It just looks relatively generic or maybe basic or boring, but when you actually smell this one and spend some time with it, it's better than you might think. Last up for this video, we have Ralph's Club Elixir. Yes, it's an Elixir flanker, and yes, people are tired of them, but they're not going away anytime soon, and some are definitely better than others. As far as the Ralph's Club lineup goes, in my opinion, the Elixir's their best yet. And I'm glad because it's also the most expensive, also how it goes. This one has leather, iris, and cardamom in here, along with some aromatics that have been found in the existing ones, the eau de parfum and the parfum, kind of like some of the amber wood as well. So it's still playing on that DNA, kind of a more aromatic forward version of eau de parfum, minus the apple sweetness is kind of how I've described like Ralph's Club EDP and the parfum. And as you go down the line, they get progressively heavier and sweeter and richer, and they get away from that Y comparison a little bit. So it's got just a little bit of that, but then some more masculine notes like the leather coming through and just giving it a bit more of like a substance, a bit more texture. I think if you're someone who didn't like Ralph's Club eau de parfum all that much, you would probably end up at least being able to tolerate the Elixir. Now, a lot of people are just going to be completely opposed to it. They're not ever going to try it. But again, this is going back to what I've been saying here. When you actually try these and spend some time with them and wear them, they're better than what you think. And kind of playing on the purpose of this video, choosing something that's familiar but just different enough to make it stand out, that's exactly what this one does. So if you wear this out in public, people are going to love how it smells. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some amazing fragrances that people are not going to see coming. They're going to smell these and instantly be intrigued, and they're going to want to know more. Again, if you want to be notified of when new releases are hitting discounters, because let's face it, the retail prices are just getting out of hand, and also to go along with that, which is a good thing, they're hitting discounters quicker. You know, it used to be they would take months for a new release to hit discounters below retail, but sometimes it's happening before they're launched at retailers. Other times, a couple weeks after. It's been happening really quick. And so you can be notified if you jump on my mailing list, texting list. Same thing with rare stuff coming in stock as well. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.